Today's show is sponsored by Indie Film Hustle's Filmmaker Process. We provide filmmakers with professional services to get their films or series funded, finished, and distributed. For more information, go to filmmakerprocess.com. Do you recommend that screenwriters write a low-budget independent film that can actually get produced so they actually have something out in the world as opposed to just a screenplay in hand with a cup in hand?
Right. I think if a screenwriter has access to filmmakers and money, even if she's not going to direct or even produce the movie, then it would behoove her to do that. But trying to sort of second guess the industry, I don't always know if that's wise. Sometimes I just think the best thing a writer should do is write the best fucking crazy ass memorable script that they can write, whether it's a gazillion dollar budget or a low budget, because the odds of it selling are slim to none anyway.
Right.
And what you want to do is make a splash. You want people to read your script and go, wow, I want to meet this guy. That's what you want, first and foremost. The idea of trying to sell a script is, I'm not saying that you shouldn't think that way, but again, the odds are that you're not going to sell a script. What you want to do is you want to get representation. What you want to do is get a job. You know, you want somebody to say, hey, I'm not going to make your movie, but we have a project that is similar to this, and maybe we can bring you on to do a rewrite. Let's face it, the majority of writers in the business, their bread and butter is through assignments. It's not spec selling.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. The spec selling thing is that lottery ticket. It's that Powerball.
That's right.
That whole thing.
So I say write what you're good at, write what you want to write, and write the hell out of it. We're doing a logline contest right now on my writers group, my Facebook writers group. And, so we got about 400 log lines. And, a lot of them, it's like, you look at these and I'm like, man, this just doesn't feel like a movie to me.
Right.
Maybe the screenplay is different. Maybe the screenplay is going to take me in some, other direction. Surprise me. But I don't know about this. That just doesn't feel like a movie. It's not very exciting. Doesn't really smack with conflict, which is something that I always look for in a log line. I want to know what the conflict is, and does it sound like it's compelling? Does it sound like it could, hold up a script for 120 pages? And so I just, I think that writers should just really think about what they're writing. The process starts at the beginning when they're hatching an idea, and come up with something that's really compelling, because you have to stand out. If you're just going to write that relationship script,
yeah,
about, you and your dad and, your estrangement, and you come together under some sort of circumstance. And I've read a million of those. Look, it doesn't mean that your writing may not be brilliant. It could be brilliant. Look at Juno, right? You read a script like Juno and the writing is really fresh. But if you heard the log line, it would sound like an after-school special from the 80s.
It does. You're right.
It does. But the writing is amazing. The problem is that you have to get people to read your writing. Diablo Cody she had a very popular blog. I believe she had already written a novel. I think she'd even been on the David Letterman show. And Mason Novick, who was a manager, he approached her and said, have you thought about writing a screenplay? And so she was already juiced in. It's like if you're somebody from Iowa and you have no connections and nobody's banging on your door and you write Juno, how are you going to get it out there, especially when the log line
it's an after-school
like
special
an
from this.
after-school special, right? Well, hopefully you enter it into the nickel and they recognize the writing, and you win or place very, very high, which perhaps opens some doors for you, as we said earlier. But I just think that writers need to think about what they're writing and just light it on fire. Light it on fire. Because I read a lot of scripts, as do many other people in this town. And a lot of them feel the same. They're just sort of homogenized. It's when you're reading a screenplay and you come across a character who's making compelling and unique choices in pursuit of whatever it is that he or she is pursuing.
Right.
And these choices result in very unique and compelling conflicts. Then you say, wow, I'm going to remember this. And then also, as I said earlier, we remember the emotion. And so it's like, if you can write just one amazing scene that is moving, and that doesn't mean moving somebody to tears. It means you could move them to laughter or move them to fear. Again, out of all the screenplays that I've read, I could tell you moments in screenplays. Like, oh yeah, there was this one script. I don't remember what it was called. I don't really remember the story, but there's this amazing beat where A, B, C, D happens. I might even remember where I was when I read it.
Because it hit you emotionally.
Yes, exactly right. So, those are the things that you need to be going for, So think original, think emotionally, write a screenplay that is going to grab the reader by the throat, even if it is unproducible.
To watch the rest of this interview, head over to bulletproofscreenwriting.tv.